Hey, what's up? I want to talk a little bit more about mental game right now. I spoke earlier and yesterday about the use of language and how it's so important to use the proper language and not to freak yourself out by saying things like, I'm getting killed, I'm getting destroyed, the market is tanking. None of those things are true. And by the same token, you got to be very careful on the upside when things are going well. This is, yeah, I'm doing great, it's fantastic, try to stay even. But I want to talk about framing. Framing is very, very important. All these things, that's how you train your mind to see things in the proper way, in a rational way, and that affects your behavior. Your behavior becomes, rational and consistent. So it's really, really important. I hear people sometimes saying things like, they're in a losing position, let's say, on paper. I mean, very often I'm in a losing position, an open loss, but it turns into a profit because I know how to manage it. But many of you, and I get emails, it's not so much my followers because they're catching on to it, but I get emails, people saying, this position is not working out, and I think I'm going to cut my losses. When you say something like that, cut your losses, that implies that you know for sure, with certainty, that taking that loss avoids a bigger loss. And again, on paper, all right, which you don't know with certainty that that is what is going to happen. And this is my problem with the so-called, trading educational wisdom that is out there. And it's probably the reason why most people lose as traders, because they follow this advice, and it is terrible advice. The very, this statement that we've all heard, cut your losses short and let your profits run. And I've spoken about this many times. Implied in that statement is a deep fallacy, this idea that for sure that if you cut your losses, you are avoiding a bigger loss, and vice versa, that if you let your profits run, they're going to continue to run. You don't know that. None of us can predict the future, all right? So, and how many times, I bet many of you have been in situations where you cut your loss, right? And then what happens? It turns around and it ends up, if you would have stayed in there, it would have been a profit, and vice versa. You're in a profitable position, you hold on to it, and it turns into a loss. All right, we've all had that experience. So that is not advice. That is garbage, all right? So the next time you are in a situation where you have an open loss, where nobody is forcing you to get out, in other words, you have enough margin, you could sit there in that position, you're not faced with a dealer liquidation where your brokerage firm or your dealer is saying, look, you're going to be liquidated, you got a margin call. And you should not be in that position anyway, because if you are in that position, that is also a reflection of poor mental game. That is gambling. That is wanting too much too soon. Okay, that is impatience. That is everything against proper mental game if you put yourself in that position. That is redundancy. That is overexposure. All those things. But the next time, and here's what I'm talking about framing. You got to say it to yourself in the right way. Be honest, okay? This whole thing is about being honest, all right? The true expression of oneself. It's pure honesty, the whole entire thing. The next time you are in an open loss situation, the market's moving against you, don't say something ridiculous like, I think I'm going to cut my losses short, because you don't know that that's what you're doing. I want you to say, I choose to lose, all right? That's very brutally honest, because that is exactly what you are doing. You are choosing to lose. Don't say you're cutting your losses short. You do not know that. Maybe this time you get lucky and you take the loss, and it would have gone to a bigger loss for a while, okay? Don't think that you know so much. That's pure luck. I want you to say, I choose to lose. Now, I've said this many, many, many times, that losses are a choice. You could choose to lose, or you could choose to win. And the difference very often is simply that in one case, the market requires you to be patient. That's all. I pay with time. I don't pay with losses with my money. I have way more time than I have money. All right? So The next time that you are faced with a situation where you start thinking to yourself, oh, you know what? I'm going to cut my losses short. I want you to really be honest and say the honest, correct thing, which is, I choose to lose. And I guarantee you, if you frame it in that way, which is the correct way to frame it, there is no other way to frame it. You are choosing to lose. You say that to yourself before doing it. Maybe not the first time. It may not sink in the first time. It may not sink in the second time. But I guarantee you, after a few times of saying to yourself, I choose to lose, you are going to realize that you are a loser because you have chosen to be a loser. All right? So, say it like that. I choose to lose. And vice versa, if you're struggling, if you have a profit and you're struggling as to whether or not you should hold it for a longer period of time, I make it very easy for you. All right. Instead of struggling with this decision, should I hold it? You know, I think I have an objective way up here and it's gotten partially there. I don't know. You very simply, you say to yourself, I choose to win. A profit is a win. A profit is a win. You say, I choose to win. That's it. Very simple. Decision made up. But more importantly, on the downside, when you have an open loss and nobody's forcing you to get out, and you're impatient, you don't want to wait, and you're rationalizing it as saying, you know, I'm going to cut my losses. You are lying to yourself. You are making up a story to make yourself feel better and comfortable in the moment. But guess what? Over time, you know what that is? That's losses. That's defeat. That's losing. You are a loser. So, say to yourself, I choose to lose. And keep saying that to yourself. And you're going to wake up at some point, at least if you have a brain, you're going to wake up at some point and say, hey, you know what? I know how come I can't make it in this business. I'm a loser. I just choose to lose every single time. Then you're going to get it. And you're going to see how things are going to turn around. Believe me, you're going to see.